Realism is coming back. I don't see how any society can stay away for long without guaranteeing food security for its people. This is basic sense. Nobel laureate and a renowned professor of literature, Wole Soyinka, aptly captures Nigeria's current reality, where a return to agriculture is being forced by an economic downturn occasioned by the dwindling revenue from oil. For almost 5 decades since the discovery of oil in commercial quantity, Nigeria, once celebrated as a successful agrarian economy, relegated agriculture to the back burner and basked in the euphoria of free petrodollars. For almost 5 decades, Nigeria's rich agricultural resources laid waste, while the country's appetite for importation, especially of food, grew. Today, the consequences of almost 5 decades of neglect are manifesting in a growing cost of food, the constant threat of food insecurity, and the recent violent clashes between cattle herders in search of forage and water and crop farmers in many parts of the country. This is our concern today on Farmers Market as we x-ray Nigeria's potentials in livestock production and the threat of clashes between cattle herders and farmers to food security. On Farmers Market, we promote Nigeria's agricultural prowess, identify the challenges confronting the sector, and encourage policies and programs that will help grow Nigeria's agro-economy. Varieties of highly nutritious rice in Abakaliki, Ofada, Kano, yet Nigeria wastes billions on rice importation. Cocoa in the southwest, and yet top dollar is spent on imported chocolate and beverages. Fruits rot in Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, yet imported juice line the shops. 82 million hectares of rich arable land, yet no jobs, and food insecurity threatens.
Our real wealth is in farming, livestock, hatcheries, fisheries, horticulture, and forestry.
It's time to act different. Time to bring Nigerian farmers to the market. Farmers Market, growing Nigeria's agro-economy. Showing every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. on AIT. One area in which Nigeria has a huge advantage over other countries in Africa is livestock production. The last census taken in 2011 shows that Nigeria's stock of cattle, goats, sheep, pigs, camel, chicken, ducks, turkey, and donkeys are larger than any other country on the continent. Nigeria is also the largest producer of livestock in West Africa, with 31.66% of the region's cattle, 43.3% of sheep, 51.98% of goats, 57.11% of pigs, and 99.38% of poultry. Despite this, animal products form a considerable part of Nigeria's food import burden. 145 million chickens, 11.6 million ducks, and 2.1 million turkeys. Yet, over 1.2 million tons of poultry products are smuggled in, costing the country about 399 billion naira in revenues annually. 19 million cattle, yet Nigeria expends $1.3 billion annually to import milk. The poor development of Nigeria's livestock production sector is already posing a major challenge to the country's food security. But even that is now being worsened by the violent clashes between cattle herders and crop farmers in different parts of the country. These clashes have become a recurring phenomenon. The Global Terrorism Index recently reported that over 1,200 people lost their lives in clashes between cattle herders and farmers across the country in 2014.
Why do we not realize that the herdsmen, in their moving around, have become a problem in their conflict with farmers? Because over the years, we never remembered that the herdsmen are also farmers, and we never did much for them. We've done enough for rice farmers, we've done something for wheat farmers, we're doing something for cassava farmers, for cocoa farmers. We never really did much for the herdsmen. I'm not by any means justifying the conflict, but we forgot to invest in that sector.
In recent times, the clashes have been frequent in many parts of northern Nigeria, especially the north-central states of Nasarawa and Benue. But the massacre of about 300 people in Benue State in February 2016 and the spread of the violence to Enugu State in April, when more than 40 people were killed, have caused a major outrage across the country, forcing the federal government and other stakeholders to seek permanent solutions to the herder-farmer clashes.
Part of this local government has been ravaged by Fulani herdsmen. People have run away. This is the cropping season and people are not there to farm because the herdsmen have taken over our farms, our farmland. It's a very serious problem. We don't know what we'll face. We're facing a full crisis situation.
In Benue State, the clashes are already having a telling impact on agriculture, and many predict that the next harvest season will be lean and the price of food is likely to go higher.
If you look at the border areas where majority of food produce come from in Benue State, they have been destabilized. The cattle have consumed most of their, they have destroyed. It's not even consumption most times. Because if you grow corn that is just growing, shooting up, and cows go to consume it, it's destruction. If you have planted yams and you have not been allowed to go and weed it, apply fertilizer, then it's destruction. It's not going to yield anything. So they have caused two problems. One, those people cannot farm. Two, those people have become homeless and a burden on people, on other people and on the government. So the effect is twofold. It's not just that they are not going to farm, but that they will not even have the food they have. Because even when I'm in Makurdi, I don't farm. I don't have physical farm in Makurdi, but I have a farm in my village. So I don't buy major food products. I don't buy yam, but I eat close to 700 tubers of yam in my house in a year. You know. So next year we have to buy because I couldn't farm.
I think that the states and the federal government must come together to support the farmers and the herdsmen. And I'm happy with the policy of federal government now because of the vulnerable situation we have found ourselves. Criminality have come in. Today, cattle rustlers are a big problem to this country. Most times they come and rustle cattle in a particular place, and the herdsmen will come with their militia and attack the vulnerable and innocent people who are children and old men and women and kill them. That is what we have been witnessing here. Here, about 9 local governments are affected in Benue State out of the 23. In fact, in Kwande, there is a particular council ward that the entire people are deserted, the children are no longer going to school, there are no more hospitals, and the herdsmen have taken over these places. This is not fair.
The debate over the clashes between pastoralists and farmers has often taken an emotive and ethno-religious dimension, with little attention to the value of both the cattle herder and the farmers to Nigeria's food security, as well as our socio-economic development.
The federal government is the owner of the land. All the state government and any other person who has land is a mere custodian of that land. And all these grazing areas that we have, they are all located in the northern parts of the country. This is where the Fulani man belongs to. They have gone to the southern and southwestern part of the country in search of pasture. That is all. If you can develop their grazing areas in the north, they can come back and stay in the north. Simple. Provide grass, provide water, provide amenities in the grazing areas. They will come back and stay. Then later, we move on to ranching, because ranching, we must go to ranching as a matter of necessity. The population is increasing both ways. The population of animal and the population of human beings are all increasing against the static land that doesn't increase. So, as a matter of necessity, we must go to ranching, but not immediately.
The policy of grazing reserves in different parts of the country, especially in northern Nigeria, dates back to the colonial era. But it was only made official in 1964 through a government gazette, setting aside about 6.4 million hectares of the forest reserve, with 98% in the savannah. By 1980, only about 2.3 million hectares of this land had been surveyed, while most of the water and road projects to facilitate easy grazing were also abandoned. By this time also, agriculture had been relegated in favor of oil, and further development of the grazing policy stalled. In 1964, when the grazing reserve policy was made official, Nigeria's population was 49.17 million. Between 1980, when 2.3 million hectares was eventually surveyed for grazing, and 2013, the country's population had grown from 73.7 million to 173.6 million. The implication of this is that development as well as the growing population had taken over the reserves.
Today, because of human activities, farming, hospitals, schools, settlements, roads, and all that have increased in the country. And so it is a difficult thing for you to talk about grazing in the manner that is being done. I have advocated right from the inception that the way to resolve farmers and herdsmen conflict is about ranching. Globally, that is what is being practiced. If you go to Europe, America, and Asia, that is what I see being practiced, even on African soil. In Swaziland, their major export earning is beef. But they ranch their cattle. So why can't we do the same thing here? We must remember that we're no longer in the 50s. We're in 2016. A lot of things have changed. And so for us to resolve this matter, we must ranch our cattle.
The world is growing. The world is modernizing. So you have to move away from this culture of a thing. You have to also move with time, move with modernization. So they will have to accept it. We are going around to sensitize them to accept it. As a matter of sense, they must accept it. But look at all this trouble going on here and there. It is in nobody's interest that these clashes are going on. Even the cattle breeders are tired of it because they also die. They also lost a lot of their cattle, children and wives. So it's in nobody's interest that the crises are going on. So we must propose to settle together. We have been going around sensitizing them to accept the realities of modern day, because this is how the world moves.
Apart from this, the ongoing fight against insurgency and climate change are other factors which seem to be fueling the friction between cattle herders and farmers in the north, central and southern Nigeria. In the last 5 years, the killings and violence unleashed by the Boko Haram insurgents have caused nomadic herdsmen to abandon their foraging grounds in the northeast. Also, desertification in the far north has claimed grazing lands and caused extended drought, pushing the pastoralists southwards in search of green pasture.
We know that if we have set aside and properly structured and well-manned reserves, herdsmen will take maximum advantage of it, and it will be better for the subsector. The roaming about with cattle is not the best form of raising them, and it's not the best way of ensuring that you have healthy and more beneficial cattle. And I believe that with proper and more constructive engagement with herdsmen and herds owners, mark my statement, herdsmen and herds owners. Some of those herdsmen are merely cattle rearers who are looking after the cattle or the herds of some of us who are probably not even Fulanis, and in so many cases who are not Fulanis. So I believe that with the constructive engagement of the herdsmen and herds owners, they will get a better understanding of the policy on grazing reserve that has been promoted by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture.
The suggestions of grazing reserves remapping were greeted with vehement rejection, especially from state governments.
We are saying that you want to raise your cattle here, you must ranch them. That is the point. We want to live with our brothers who are herdsmen or cattle rearers, but they must understand that Benue State have no other industry other than farming and the civil service. So it is important that we know this. And these killings must stop because it does not solve any problem. And I'm happy with the policy of the federal government now to set up a squad to ensure that they go after cattle rustlers to protect herdsmen and also to protect farmers.
With some states expressing opposition to the proposal of redefining the country's grazing reserve policy, the federal government had no choice but to make it a voluntary venture. As at May 2016, 11 states had contributed 55,000 hectares of land for the purpose of establishing ranches for Nigeria's nomadic pastoralists.
We think that if we have the capacity to grass up those large areas, there may be no need for cattle to even roam from north to south. And that's what we're hoping to achieve. So, for northerners to go to the south and take their land and Islamize the south is out of the question. That is not the intention. And definitely as a ministry, that's not what we are here for. We're even encouraging southerners who want to keep cattle to come and join us, and we can help them develop their own ranches so they too can keep cows and feed them well. But definitely the intention from this ministry is not to seize land from anybody, except where the governors have said, fine, we have the land and we can allow you develop paddocks so that herdsmen can come and operate under certain strict regulations. Our climate is very good. If we can irrigate, we can almost bale grass every 2 months and develop hay and store for the dry season.
The new National Agricultural Roadmap, the Green Alternative, recently endorsed by the Federal Executive Council, recognizes that the country's cattle value chain has become a major security problem. It describes the current supply chain as inefficient and a high security risk because the roaming cattle are a source of friction between landowners and herdsmen. The Green Alternative aims to protect all parties by retaining cattle in ranches.
This is what the government should actually go embark on. Initially, it's going to cost. Initially, it's going to cost the government, but I think that's the way to go. Get these fees if it means subsidize to farmers. By the time they see the benefit of their keeping their livestock in one place and then the way they grow, I mean, when you start taking off, withdrawing the subsidy, they will know that, yes, this is the way to go because they've already seen the difference. They'll see the difference.
So,
to demonstrate the advantages of ranching cattle, Benue State Governor Samuel Otom took farmers market on a tour of his own small holding.
Yeah, Lafia. You see? Are they looking hungry? You see how they are? And they eat everything. Now you see, this dung, These dungs are used for manure. We'll pack them, you know. So nothing is wasted. You use this to grow the corn, and once you harvest your corn, the straw, you bring them. They consume it.
Varieties of highly nutritious rice in Abakaliki, Ofada, Kano. Yet Nigeria wastes billions on rice importation. Cocoa in the southwest, and yet top dollar is spent on imported chocolate and beverages. Fruits rot in Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, yet imported juice line the shops. 82 million hectares of rich arable land, yet no jobs, and food insecurity threatens.
Our real wealth is in farming, livestock, hatcheries, fisheries, horticulture, and forestry.
It's time to act different. Time to bring Nigerian farmers to the market. Farmers Market, growing Nigeria's agro-economy. Showing every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. on AIT. That's Farmers Market for this week. But before we go, here are some of your thoughts from our feedback segment, Farmers Network. Last week, we asked what your expectations of the new National Agricultural Roadmap, the Green Alternative, are. Here are some of your responses. Adeshino Abdulwasiu says, nice step to diversify our economy. Joseph Eze has become a regular. He says, the trouble with Nigeria has never been that of policies. It is implementation. If the agricultural transformation agenda had been properly implemented, we wouldn't be where we are today. To join the conversation, just go to our website www.farmersmarketng.com. Click on Farmers Network, choose the topic, make your contributions brief, and they will feature next week on Farmers Market. You can see this program again whenever you want to. Just visit our website www.farmersmarketng.com. For feedback and sponsorship considerations, please contact us on 009 566 0090. Email us on info@farmersmarketng.com. Follow us on Twitter @farmersmarketng. And like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/farmersmarketng. Farmers Market returns same time, same station next week. Thanks for watching.